Coming up on UGTV, Standing Committees of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. We begin with the meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. This will be followed by the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee.
We'll get started. I'm going to call the meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when that item's up for discussion. You would have up to 3 minutes to make your comments. When that time comes, we would ask you to come to the podium out here in the spectator section and make sure you speak directly into the microphone for accurate recording purposes so that everyone can hear you. Could we have roll call, please?
Roll call. Groneman? Here. Philbrick?
Here.
Markley? Here. Kane? Here. And we have Commissioner McKiernan sitting in for Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
And Bynum.
Here. Oh, that's me. The first item on the agenda is our minutes from February 26th. Is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
and the minutes are approved. The first item on our agenda tonight is a presentation from staff and Waste Management and a request to implement a pilot program for trash and recycling. We have several people here to present, and I'm going to introduce Deputy County Administrator Melissa Sieben and Public Works Director Jeff Fisher, and if you'll introduce everyone else and we'll launch into your presentation. I will say we have technical difficulties at the screen in front of us, but the screen in the audience area is working, and we have hard copies of this presentation. So with that, Melissa.
Yes. Good evening, commissioners. I am here tonight just to introduce the folks that are here sitting next to me, and then also to kind of tee up the conversation before we go into the presentation that they're working currently to get up on the screen here in front of us. So Tim Nick will be leading the presentation here on behalf of the Public Works Department. And John Blessing is here from Waste Management, and he will be answering questions in more detail should you have questions as we go through the presentation. And Jeff, I'm sure you have a role of helping clarify anything else, correct? That's why Jeff, our Public Works Director, is here. So I just want to lay a little history of sort of where we're at and why we're before you tonight. The Unified Government has a long-term waste hauling contract with was Deffenbaugh, is now Waste Management. When I began working for the Unified Government about 3 years ago, we started looking at what ended up becoming the SOAR initiative. And part of the track with the SOAR initiative was actually looking at why we have so much litter debris about the county and what we could do about it. And one of the things that was identified was our system of trash removal is not up to modern standards. And because of that, we don't have some of the protections that residents in other communities will have against debris blowing about, especially our recycling. As most of you know, if you have recycling, a lot of you are doing it in bins that have no lids, and you have to find some method or means to actually weight down the items so they don't blow all over your neighborhood. On the other side, when we were going back through some issues in 2016 with Waste Management, one of the things that Jeff and his team started looking at is the contract and started asking some questions of Waste Management about sort of our recycling rates. And we have some of the lowest recycling rates, for certain lowest in the metro. And if we looked at ourselves nationally, we're well below national averages. These two things actually collided for us, these two conversations around sort of the issue with the SOAR program and the issue with us not having higher recycling rates, and the fact that we could actually be getting money back if we recycled at a higher rate. And henceforth, after we've worked through some of the issues we had with pickups, with the transition to Waste Management, we're here today because we feel that it's the time to discuss a pilot program in which we moved to the cart-based system. And I'm going to go ahead and now turn it over to Tim Nick.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, Commissioners, what we have here, go to the second slide, and a little bit of this Melissa's touched on here. The why, the reduce the blowing, the trash and debris, and just the overall appearance of our community to try to clean it up a bit. To increase recycling, and hopefully, you know, that with the bigger bins, those that don't recycle or don't recycle as much will be increasing their volumes to streamline the collection services. In the long run, hopefully to reduce trucks, the number of, you know, Jeff talks about it all the time about the number of heavy vehicles that we have on our roads, and that'll reduce that. And then improve the overall quality of the service, and as Melissa touched on, the last couple of years have been a little tough with Waste Management, so hopefully this will improve the overall service. What are we proposing? In your packets too, there's maps in there for the 3 areas. We tried to get, Waste Management wanted to do 1,000 houses or close to 1,000 houses for these areas. And what we tried to do is pick 3 different areas that lead to different challenges as far as the infrastructure. So what we selected, and these aren't in stone. We've got these, they could be tweaked just a little bit, but like I said, we want to keep it around 1,000 houses total. But we've selected an area in Strawberry Hill, an area in Northridge at Piper Estates, an area over in Turner in the Highland Crest area. The pilot program, if approved, would be we're shooting for like a 6-month period, and we're hoping to possibly get that kicked off around July 1st. If we ran in a 6-month period till the end of the year, we want to try to, you John talked about getting different seasons in there, so hopefully, with the fall and the winter to see what the challenges are there. At the end of the pilot program, we would evaluate the results and make any decisions moving forward on how we, if we want to test this, if that test is right, go citywide. The cost to the UG at this point is $79,000. However, we do have some credits with Waste Management that we believe we can use those to cover almost completely all the costs, and so this would be pretty much minimal if we could do that. Again, here are the three pilot areas, and in the back of your packet, there's a bigger map for you to see a little bit better. The pilot guidelines. So what we do, the residents in these pilot areas would all receive 2 95-gallon carts, both with lids. One would be a little different color for the recycling. The trash service would be picked up weekly, as it is now. There would be unlimited recycling, but the recycling at this point would be picked up every other week. And what Waste Management would do, they would provide a schedule at the beginning of the pilot program for all residents to have to know what weeks they put their recycling out, which weeks they don't. There's no additional cost for the basic service during this pilot program. However, there is a cart volume limit on the trash, and which includes yard waste. So if you've got a bag of grass clippings, that needs to go into your 96-gallon cart. There are additional stickers. You could buy stickers. They're $1.25 a piece. And if you have more trash than goes in your 96-gallon thing, you just have to put the sticker on it so Waste Management knows to pick it up. We had discussed this during some of our meetings about providing the stickers at no cost. However, if we're going to get the true reading of what the pilot program is and if it's going to work, we need to have it be as much as real life how it's going to work in the end. So that's why we go with the stickers. Bulky items would be, we would do a pickup the first week of each month at no additional cost, but you would have to make an appointment with Deffenbaugh. So they just don't want to have trucks running around the city not picking up anything, because it'll be an additional new truck out there for that. And finally, if any resident thinks that they're going to have more than 96 gallons worth of stuff, they can order an additional cart for $5 a month that they're charged. So now the way the program, this will be a 3-phase program on the pilot program, and we pick the addresses that we think will be on the list. Determine the execution date, which we say we're shooting for July 1st. Then working with Waste Management, they would decide how they're going to deliver the carts and the dates that they'll get those carts out to the people. They'll be providing a joint invitation mailer to all the residents within the pilot program, but we did talk about also getting communications out to everyone in the city, letting them know that the pilot program's out there, why we chose certain areas, why I'm not included, why I am included, and those kind of things. We're going to develop a list of FAQs for the Waste Management customer service team and our 311 team to work together to address any situations that come up during the pilot program. And then we'll be hosting, along with Waste Management, open houses, one for each pilot area before the start of the program. So those residents can come, they have any questions, concerns that they're going to face, we can address those at that time. Well, there we go. Well, somewhere our phase 2 went out of there. Phase 2 will be the delivery of the carts by Waste Management. The 6-month program. We'll be training their customer service team as well as Waste Management training their customer service team to track all residents' calls, complaints that come in, tracking phone numbers, addresses, and a resolution. We'll also be having our solid waste staff will be in the field checking on any complaints in that, following their staff around. We'll have scheduled check-in performances, we call them, with Waste Management and our staff every couple of weeks to determine how the data's share the data and evaluate how things are going on. And then they'll create a reminder communication for each resident regarding when the program ends and what we'll do as far as cart collection. That's going to be something on the cart collection that we don't know what we'll do at the end right now, because if we think that possibly this program could go citywide, we don't want to have the cost of having to go pick the carts up, pick them back up, and then take them back out again. So that's the thing that we'll work on. We'll include a post-survey email address and link for those residents in the pilot program to go online. And then we'll also have a door hanger with that post-survey information on it during the cart collection. Finally, in phase 3, we'll develop the post-line survey for all the participating residents. Waste Management and UG will again send it into the program communication for any questions and surveys, and then we'll give it 2 weeks for them to close out the survey and the communication for our staff. We'll use all the evaluation then and determine, come back to you guys and see how we want to move forward, or if we want to stay the way we are. So,
Okay.
questions on that? And John's here too, if you have anything.
Okay. Is there any member of our standing committee that has questions on the pilot program? Commissioner McKiernan.
I have a couple. I'm glad to hear that there might be an alternative to having us pay for the trash cans, because that was one thing that I was concerned about, where we're going to come up with $80,000 for a pilot program. How will this reduce the number of trucks on the street?
So the current vehicles in use are, let me rephrase that. The vehicles we'll be putting into use with the pilot and possibly citywide can collect more houses than the current trucks we have today. And the current system we have today, where we've got helpers on the back of the truck and they have to jump off and go get the materials and bring them in. With the automated services, we can service the houses a lot faster, so we don't need as many to get the volume. So I think we had 15 trucks on average that we serviced the UG with today, and we believe we can shed 3 to 4 trucks by using the newer vehicles, because they can take larger volume. And you're controlling your volume to a certain degree with the carts, so it's a little more manageable.
Well, I have a question about that as well. But, so you've got fewer trucks, are they bigger trucks?
Correct?
So what does that implication of that for narrow streets, for example, right here in Strawberry Hill, where we have a narrow street to begin with and cars parked on both sides of the street? Does that have any implications?
Not necessarily. The trucks are larger, but not by much. The capacity is larger in the vehicle. The rear load vehicles that we're using today, a large portion of that truck is used up with the rear load function. With the automated truck, the way that it collects the cans with the automatic arm allows for more capacity in the bed of the truck, if that makes sense. So yes, the trucks are a little bit larger than the current vehicles you have today, but the capacity, volume that those trucks can take is quite a bit larger than the trucks you have today. Does that clarify?
Does the automated arm come out to the side or to the back?
There's 2 different kinds. There's the side, and then there's also what we call a Corrado, which has a bucket on the front that has a side grabbing arm, and that's a little more maneuverable.
Again, I'm interested to learn how on these very narrow streets with cars parked on both sides, any side loading apparatus is going to fit.
Well, that's part of why we're doing the program, and part of our solution to that, where we're going to start, for example, in Strawberry Hill, is we're going to retrofit a rear load with a cart tipper. So although we'll be able to reduce some of the labor, we recognize that there are certain areas that, although we can improve marginally, we're not going to be able to put a full auto truck in there. But we will be able to go to a rear load that has a cart tipper, so we can reduce maybe one of the guys on the back of the truck, and it automatically tips the cart as long as they bring the cart to the back of the truck.
So this is more of a question for staff. So what are we going to do about those people who live on a big high terrace and say, you know what, I choose not to haul these 96-gallon cans up and down the steps. I'm just going to leave them sit on the sidewalk. We have a strategy for that?
Yes, we're going to have to work through it, Commissioner. They've done this in other areas, and that's why, they're the professionals, and we're going to leave it to them to, we had that meeting not too long ago and talked about that.
And $1.25 for a sticker for an extra bag. I will say, as I drive around on Wednesday morning in my neighborhood, some houses put out an astonishing volume of trash. So where do they get those extra stickers? Do they buy them from us?
That's to be determined. Waste Management sells them. We also partner with some of our other municipalities, and they sell them through the City Hall. We actually partner with some of the local grocery stores and sell them through those retail outlets. So there's a lot of options there.
So what do we do when somebody either chooses not to buy the extra sticker or doesn't know they have to and flings out a whole bunch of bags in addition to their can? Do you pick that up?
I believe they have a pretty robust communications plan, and I think you can go into kind of how they give notice to individuals who don't follow protocol.
So typically what we would do is, in reality, our driver would probably just take those bags and would tag the can. So it would be a warning system that says, hey, here's what you need to do, and here's how you can get information on the sticker program. And it would have a phone number probably to our customer service department, so they could call and we could educate that resident. Here's what you need to do. Here are the numbers that you can call or where you can go to get these stickers, and here's the purpose of the stickers. Hopefully, as Melissa said, we would solve all of those problems with our initial communication that talks about the limits and the stickers that are required, but to your point, not everybody might digest that.
So we wouldn't necessarily have streets going out and sweeping up after waste management.
We should never be doing that. So that's
totally
the
agree.
answer, and that's the goal, is to educate and use their systems they use elsewhere to get exactly where they are in other communities, which is Public Works does not go out in other communities picking up trash.
I like it. So are cans assigned per structure or per living unit within a structure? And here's what I'm thinking. So I've got a single-family home that gets 2 cans. I have several single-family homes that have been somewhere in the past split up into 2 or 3 living units. It's a single family and it's zoned R1, but historically there's 2 living units. So does that get 2 cans for the structure or 4 cans because there's 2 families living in there?
Typically, we go by the structure, we go by the address, but I mean, that's open to debate. I guess if you've got 4 families living in one single-family home and they all want their own carts, they would be getting 4 separate service bills. But typically, it's per address, per structure.
What does unlimited recycling mean? Glass?
No.
No.
Doesn't include glass, Commissioner, but anything, you've got your volume limit. If you have a second barrel, if you recycle, you could put another container out of your own if you'd like.
Okay.
Whereas on the trash, it's limited to with the sticker. But if you fill your 96-gallon container in recycling, you have another barrel, more recycling, they'll take as much recycling as you want. But
okay.
It's on the trash.
But not glass. Still no glass.
Still no glass.
Okay.
Glass can be taken to the recycling center.
And right now, we get 1 large item per week per household, right? So this would cut that down.
I believe it's 3 items at this point.
Let's just go for 1.
Yeah.
So we get 1 a week. Now I'm limited to 1 week a month where I can put out large items.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's by appointment, as we're recommending. Generally, it's by appointment only anywhere else. So this is still a much more generous program for disposal. One of the things that I have noticed, and I'm sure you notice it more than I notice it.
Gotten pictures of when I noticed it.
Yes, exactly, is a lot of our rental properties, that doesn't seem to be managed very well when people move out. And I think that's probably where we're gonna see some opportunities for us to communicate better with our landlords.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Commissioner Kane.
First of all, if it's a pilot program and we're going to save them money, we shouldn't give them a dime. They're going to save manpower and we're going to give them money? I don't think so. We shouldn't have to use any of our credits either, because this is for them, not for us. To piggyback Mr. McKiernan's question about my mother and father-in-law are 85 plus years old and they keep their trash around the back, and they're going to have to drag it all the way up the driveway, which is a gravel driveway, in the winter when there's snow. So how's that going to happen? And then let's say this is my neighborhood, Northridge. Or, of course, now what are the people across from high school going to say when you know that we're having a hard time getting ambulances down those roads? So now we're going to tack on a big truck. And as far as the barrels go, and there has been trash blowing around, no doubt about it. If it's stuff like what you got here, be less trash blown around. You know, I'm not, and what you're going to do is when in a pilot program, if it works, let's say it works, the only place it works is my neighborhood. But all the other ones say it don't work, now they're ready to go, and this is now you took it away from us. And we already have issues with people from the east side of town don't like what's going on the west side of town because they feel like this is preferred. In fact, we know it's called the Pearl. And all I want you guys to do, and I don't know what your name is, I just want you to do your job. I get a phone call at least once a week on stuff where you guys have missed, where we've got to call back and say, hey, you missed this one again, and some of them you missed 2 or 3 times. Now, I can understand once in a while, and some of these houses are on dead-end streets, I get it. But they still pay their taxes, they still want their trash picked up, and Defenball picked them up, and I don't know why you guys wouldn't pick them up. And I would like to have a conversation with you at a different date over these issues.
Commissioner Philbrook.
Boy, okay. So, yes, Mike, yes, and yes, Commissioner. All of those things, and I definitely agree with the comment about not spending, and I want to say spending, and you guys called them credits. They're not credits, that's what they owe us for not doing their job. Okay, no, that's okay. I'm not getting on you. I'm just saying that that's money they owe us because they weren't doing their job. And as far as I'm concerned, they probably owe us a lot more. Another issue that I have with this whole thing, it goes along with the areas, Mike, like you were saying. I have had several complaints that nicer areas, if a bag bust or something they're picking up, they pick that up when they're and there's an issue. But if it's not in as nice an area, they just let it blow. And it happens all the time in Stony Point. They do that all the time in Stony Point. The people are getting really not happy there about some of that stuff that's going on through there. The other thing is that I drive through Johnson County all the time because I'm working over there now, and I would tell you most of the places that I see those wonderful containers is mostly on the flat areas. I don't see as many on the hills, and when I'm driving around over there, and it's great for flat areas because even us old folks can get them out there, roll it out there. But if you have a driveway that's down or up, and that's a lot of our areas, and asking people to get it out there, it is not going to be as easy as what it might look. You might have to have your grandkids come over to move your trash out. And that's not fair. When you have a smaller, what they'd end up having to do, as I look at it, is put the trash bin out there and then carry every sack out there and put it in there, And no, that's not much different, but then on the other hand, I don't know. I guess I kind of have got an attitude about this particular thing because of the fact that I kind of feel like in other things around here, we start stuff and we pay for it, and then we don't finish up and initiate it or tell everybody why we're doing what we're doing, okay? And we supposedly are to be more transparent in what we're doing. And I appreciate you guys coming forward because that's a lot more transparent than what we usually do. And so, yes, you're seeing me with my face turning red, and I'm not yelling and screaming, but I am inside because when you say that you're going to have a meeting with each group, what time of day is that meeting going to be? Is that going to be during the day when most people are working? Is that going to be in the evening? And people can't always just make themselves available for us. So I think that could be a problem too. Let's see. What else did I write down that I want to gripe about? Sorry, I'm on the gripe mode. Yeah, I am sure that we mean well. I just don't know that it's going to be well. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Commissioner Markley.
Sorry, did I cut in front of you? Sorry. So I hear all of the concerns, and I understand the concerns. I think what staff is saying, though, is some of those concerns we're not going to know whether it's going to work or not until we try it, and that's why they're proposing we try it, before we try rolling it out to the whole city and find out it doesn't work. I would rather roll it out to a small group and find out that it doesn't work than roll it out to a large group and have it be a complete failure. So this is our opportunity to have that smaller test group and see whether this is viable or what changes would have to be made before we go countywide. I think one thing we should have staff address, almost all communities are already on this system, and the reality is probably that at some point in the future, we're gonna have to go this direction because the other option isn't going to be available. We're sort of living in what was the old time option, and the new option is coming, whether we like it or not. So I would, if it's okay with Commissioner Bynum, just ask staff to address sort of the realities of where we are in terms of the rest of the world in our trash pickup.
I would like to hold that thought, that give you a chance to come back around to a number of the issues that have been brought forward by us. I think we have BPU member Groneman and Commissioner McKiernan yet with more questions, and I have a couple of questions, so.
More comments.
Sure.
We'll do that. Okay. In our neighborhood, and in particular at my household, my wife does a lot of yard work, gardening in the springtime. I think that there needs to be a lot of there'll need to be a lot of education for the residents of Wyandotte County, UG, and also for waste management people. Over the last month, over a 2-week period, my wife set out some yard clippings, brush deal, and bagged up in bags. Waste management drove by and picked it up. The next week, she sets out another 4 or 5 bags. They drive by and they don't pick it up. She calls and they say, well, we don't, it has to be in paper bags. If it's not in a paper bag, we won't pick it up. Well, paper bags, as I understand it, in Johnson County and other places, they have to go to Home Depot and buy these paper bags and put the yard waste in the paper bags. But that's not, the way that it's done or has been done in Wyandotte County or unified government. They said that they would send the driver back out to pick it up. The driver comes back out, drives by, looks at the bags, and drives off again and leaves them there. So there just needs to be some education if this is going to work at all. Not only educate the customers, but also your people are going to need to be educated as to what was permissible in the unified government and what isn't, and because it was quite a mess.
Can I go ahead and address that
Sure.
specifically? So part of the way the pilot would work is that they'll actually have a dedicated truck that is for the pilot and a dedicated driver for that area that will not be part of the bigger route that drivers or the system would have typically taken in. So it's a micro portion of a route. It's not a full route. And so that's why we're able to kind of do that more intensive education, because that person or persons that are working those routes will have the time to do that. And they will know this very specifically. And I do think, getting back to kind of what Commissioner Markley was talking about, part of the problems we do experience here is because we do have such a unique setup that is so vastly different from everyone else in the metro. So that's not to say that it's good or right that there's these issues, but it does play in. If they pull a driver off relief from another part of the city, we do have a completely different system. And if we can just all recognize that and understand that creates problems for us, that doesn't mean it's right on their customer service end, but it does create problems.
And I think that also there'll be a great pushback on the stickers, purchasing of the stickers.
Some more money, right?
Commissioner McKiernan.
So I totally agree with Commissioner Markley. I mean, we can't say, this is the way it used to be and stay in the past. We're going to have to evolve over time. And I think that the pilot program is a great way to do it. A lot of the questions I ask are born out of the fact that I've taken a lot of phone calls with concerns and complaints and repeated concerns and complaints. And so maybe I'm a little sensitive to the fact, wait a minute, we're not doing the baseline up to everyone's satisfaction, and we're going to change it. And maybe we're going to change it for the better. And I'm going to actually possibly set up some of what Commissioner Bynum is going to ask. You all are big company. You're in lots of communities. You're in communities that I would guess are as geographically diverse as we are. You've undoubtedly encountered a lot of these challenges, and I'm going to guess that you have successfully overcome them in other communities. And so I just maybe want you to talk a little bit about how you've done that and the confidence that you bring to this table, saying, we'll have a couple of bumps and bruises, but we're confident we can make this work. So.
Fair enough. Just a couple of comments, and then I'm going to let you sort of respond to all that you've heard. We also still have members of the public, I think, that would like to speak. So just to kind of keep moving through this, I had mentioned to a couple of you before that I went to Seattle in the year 2000, which was 18 years ago, and they were doing this. And I remember thinking how unique and wonderful that was. And it is not lost on me that 18 years later in my hometown, we are still not doing it. So I want you to understand that I have a level of interest and support for starting somewhere. And this pilot program is the opportunity to start somewhere. There will be ups and downs, and you've heard many of them from us tonight. I would like it if you could address the issue that popped right into my head when the agenda item was first put on, and that is my 88-year-old mother. And I would just like you to address this because I think you have some options for it. First thing that pops in my head is that person who cannot get their 95-gallon cart to the curb. But I will also say that, truth be told, my daughter and I have been taking her trash to the curb for the last 2.5 years already. So I understand that there will be neighbors and family members who will be part of the solution of getting a 95-gallon cart to the curb, because I already do that every single Monday. So, but I'd like you to address it. And then my last actual question is the additional trash carts ordered for $5 a month as proposed in the program. If my cart just gets taken and it's gone, is that $5 to get another one? And then I'm going to let you address all that you've heard us say. And then again, we still need to allow time for the public.
Thank you. There's quite a bit to respond to, so I'm going to kind of jump around here. Just going a little bit in reverse order, Commissioner, with the elderly or disabled. So there are a lot of options, and a little bit to Commissioner McKiernan's point, we've done a lot of different things in a lot of different communities. So the options that we will present would be up for city staff and the commission to decide. Of those options, there are certain services that we've rolled out in other communities. Again, they've selected these and we've rolled them out for the elderly, and it's called a house line service. So the elderly resident or those that might have a disability could put their trash cart at the garage line. We call it the house line, you know, kind of so you don't have to bring it on down the driveway, right? Our driver would go up and get that. There's pros and cons to that. The pro being you're providing a service for the elderly or the disabled so they don't have to move the cart down. It's going to erode some of the efficiency of having an automated service, right? Because in these areas, you're going to have the driver get out, go on up and get the cart and bring it down. So although those options are available, they will impact ultimately your cost control, which I think is kind of what we're looking at long term. How do you control costs for the disposal in the years to come? So if that's a menu option that staff decides is necessary, and again, we'll probably be able to extrapolate some of that from our pilot, then that's certainly an option we would have available. Again, up to the commission to ultimately decide what they want to do. There's also smaller cart sizes. We experimented with, well, let me back up. So the pilot rolls out 96 gallons because just the nature of the trash in Wyandotte County today, it's a large volume. So we're erring on the side of providing the largest cart. If there are residents who would prefer a smaller cart, we have a 65 gallon for both trash and recycling that are more manageable for maybe those that think that they won't be able to manage the larger cart. We don't go much smaller than that because they fall into the truck, just quite honestly. And I'll touch, kind of jumping maybe to those open house meetings that we've talked about. 9 times out of 10, the fears are satisfied in the open house. I've been to a couple where we even had some ramps crafted where residents could push the cart up an incline or down a decline a little bit just to get an idea of what it is and how it works. Most of those fears are solved when they're able to get their hands on it and move it around. Not all. Some will still say this cart is too big and maybe then a smaller cart is sufficient for them, or a house line service should that service be chosen by city staff. Talking a little bit about what Commissioner Markley said, and I think it's been touched on elsewhere too, is eventually this is going to come to a head for Wyandotte County. Right now, the current contract with Waste Management expires in 2032, and we are content with the way it works today. We don't think it's the best system, and we can see down the road where it's going to go, but again, if the decision is to remain, that's okay with us. But we've got 15 years to kind of the example I gave was to slowly turn a ship, because Wyandotte County is a big ship. You've got 15 years to incrementally make these changes. If you wait till the end of that contract, these options, to Commissioner Markley's point, may not even be available. Most metropolitan areas, we're not seeing uncarted, take whatever you want services. And if you do, they're 3 times what you're paying today. Simply because, as the service provider, there's no way to control our costs to provide that service. When you have the carded system, the modern system, as we're calling it, with carts and limits, the biggest challenge is behavior change, right? That is the biggest challenge that you'll see with your population. And I think it was touched on again from a couple of different commissioners on, and that just takes time. People will be surprised. It's very wise for us to kind of peel the onion here and say, well, some people were just never going to do it this way. And in this part of town, I can just never see it changing. But honestly, we've seen the exact same situation in other communities with people that said the exact same things, and ultimately it changes. People realize how much more they can recycle once they're encouraged to recycle. So we watch those volumes go down. When you manage the large item collection, you address a lot of the renter situations, which really are the lion's share of having an entire household at the curb for collection on that day. So as you slowly kind of change the behavior, and that only comes through education, right? You got to let the people know why you're doing what you're doing. This isn't some kind of, we just want to change it because we can, or a money grab. Let them know that you've got 15 years to get your future costs under control, because after that contract expires, these options may not be available. So there's a lot of education that goes through that. I think the test pilot program is one of the ways, and I'm hoping that when we get that survey feedback, we can put a lot of these fears to rest. The people that at the very beginning of the program said, you know, there's no way I'm going to adhere to this. This will never satisfy my needs. You'll see the majority of those people, again, hopefully, come back in the survey and say, you know what, I had to change a few things. I had to manage my waste a little more responsibly. I was educated on what I could and couldn't recycle, and this works. And yes, there's going to be Christmas or somebody's birthday where I have a couple extra bags, and I have to pay the $1.25 for an extra bag. If they're traditionally or routinely having those costs, then it's more efficient to rent an extra cart, because that's only $5. And if you're using 5 stickers every week, well, that's more than $5. So there's a lot of education that comes with that. I think I touched on most of what I was given. I was taking notes as it went. Did I miss specific concerns?
Yeah,
Okay, what?
Yeah, it was, so the $5 charge.
Oh, for the carts, right. So we maintain the warranty on all of the carts, right? Lid breaks, wheel pops off, mysterious hole shows up. We would simply just need a phone call, and we will come and replace that cart free of charge. That being said, if the same address has a cart that gets melted every week, we're probably going to engage in a conversation with city staff, right? I mean, there's something needs to happen there. But we see, wear and tear on the carts. Our automatic arms, they squeeze them, and ultimately they will crack. We'll replace those carts free of charge, even the one that is rented in addition to that.
So I guess my question would be also is, for those folks who decide to usurp somebody else's cart, so they have 2, is it set up so every location, you automatically know whether they have 2 or not?
That's correct.
Show up? Okay.
That's correct. Right now, even, we've got an account for every address in the unified government. And on that account, we can assign how many carts they have and vice versa. So we'll ultimately get feedback from our drivers that say, one house has no carts and another house has 2 carts. And then what that will lead to is a call to city staff.
I know that might appear a little picky, but what can I tell you? Things happen, and I was just trying to understand to the extent that you have control over what you do, and I appreciate that a lot. Basic services, as you say, 1 cart for recycle and one cart for regular trash, correct? Okay, thank you.
And how that unlimited recycling goes, it's simply because we want to help the UG increase their recycling rates. As previously mentioned, there's a clause in the current contract that triggers rebates at certain volumes that the UG just has not gotten close to. So if we can increase all the recycling possible, and we've got our own motivation there, because everything that we can divert out of the landfill helps us. The life of that landfill is expiring, and that's going to be a change for all of the Kansas City metropolitan area. But diversion is something that we want to support. So what we often say is, if you're noticing, and the pilot too, being every other week, we may gather data that says it needs to be weekly, right? I mean, that's why we're doing the pilot. We may gather data that says it needs to be monthly. I doubt that, but so some of this is a learning curve through the pilot. But that secondary cart, most cities that go to a carted system, we just tell the residents to repurpose any cart that they currently have, that they're currently using, write recycling on it, and now you can fill up 2 carts if need be.
I have one other thing, and it's a bulky item that there's been pushback on, and that, of course, is mattresses. And, you're dealing with rental properties, and a lot of times, the mattress goes out by the curb, and it's not the person that owns the rental property. It's the person that's moving out and doing, and they don't always let you know when they're moving out. Sometimes they just move out.
Sure.
And so only picking up once a month, and then that leaves all the junk around, and you want to rent your property, it's kind of a catch-22. Can you address that a little bit?
Well, yeah, and I'll be as gentle as possible, but that is really a change in how that renter and landlord needs to do business. I mean, there needs to be some type of control factor there. I mean, it's almost seems like, addressing the symptom, and not the disease, right? So there needs to be some education there between landlord and renter. And yes, I mean, there's deposits. I mean, back when I rented, you had deposits that hopefully kept you from some of those run out the door abuses that you're referring to. But there's going to be those situations. Ultimately, I think in a worst case scenario, the landlord, that's a cost of doing business as a landlord. If you've got a renter that splits out on you and leaves a mess, hopefully you've got a deposit. Hopefully you've got some kind of method of obtaining that. And it shouldn't necessarily just be, we'll just put it all out and hope the trash people figure it out, right? So that is one of those behavior changes and learning curves that we kind of mentioned that is really kind of more of a deeper issue than, just the trash collection.
Yeah, and we do need to figure that one out big time, and I guess that probably falls into the lap of codes and SOAR and.
Right.
And if I can reference, we recently made this change to the city of Osawatomie down in Miami County. And for 1 month, they had a problem where people just refused to listen to the rules and said, well, what happens if I just don't pay attention? And I just I put more than I'm supposed to out there. I put 4 or 5 items. And we gave them a grace period, took all the items as an earlier example, took all the items, left them a tag, said, hey, you're not supposed to do this, and here are the rules. And then the next time, we contacted City Code Enforcement, and City Code Enforcement went out and wrote a ticket. And they had about a month where they wrote some tickets, and then that magically started to stop.
Okay. No, I appreciate you addressing that. Thank you.
Commissioner Kane.
Thank you. My mother and father-in-law's garage is in the back. How are you going to address that?
Well, I would say today we're not going in the back to pick up the trash. So there is some method currently in process where that trash is coming to the curb today.
Okay, and then, in our survey that we passed out, I don't remember this being something that everybody was going nuts about. Maybe I'm wrong. And you missed the big one about if you'd been doing your job in the first place. I didn't have any complaints until you guys took over. And then it was a long time. I know it was a learning curve for you guys, but I'm still getting complaints. And when we pay for this service, we want it done properly and not have to call somebody and say, hey, you missed another trash thing. And there's no way that we should pay for any pilot program and like I said, not use the credits because it's saving you money. It's not saving us money. And I'm not sure that I would rather see this at a 5 o'clock meeting where all the commissioners are here than just us, because this is just bigger than just us. So that's my thought process.
Let's see. Other comments, questions from the members of the standing committee? There are, I believe, members of the public here. If you are here as a member of the public and you want to speak on this topic, could I see you raise your hand? So is that correct that I'm seeing two total? Okay, very good. Whichever of you would like to go first, we do have public comment welcome at this time. We would ask you to come to the microphone. We're going to have you state your name. You'll have 3 minutes, and Ms. Ramirez is your timer. Wave your hand. She's your timer.
That's not very long.
And can you please pull that microphone forward?
This one?
So that we can hear you, yes.
I'm Shirley Carter Eichert. I live at 804 South 89th Street, KCK 66111. I'm here because this really doesn't sound like that the public has been made aware of this. And I think we need to be more transparent than this. And I would like to know, number one, who picked the areas where the pilot is going to be? Who picked that?
We'll take it down and answer it.
Oh, okay. The other thing is if we're going to pick certain areas in Wyandotte County, or if we're including the unified government, I don't think we should be able to handpick anything. We handpicked everything out west, and nothing came east. And we are still cherry picking what we want to do. That is not what I call transparency. I would like to know who asked this company to come in here to tell us what we needed for trash. Whose idea was that? And if it wasn't brought up here, I would like to know the name of the company, why they thought they could come in and tell us what to do.
Ms. Eichert, this is Waste Management,
Okay,
which purchased Deffenbaugh,
okay,
and it is the company with which we have a current trash pickup contract that is in place all the way through the year 2032. So the company name has changed, but it's actually been a merger, if you will, of the company Deffenbaugh that we have had a waste contract with for, as far as I know, decades and decades. And Mr. Nick, you may know better than anybody how long we've been doing business. But just to stop there, it's not a new company. It's just the current company that we currently use looking for solutions. So go ahead and continue.
how much are we paying them to do this grandiose pilot?
It's all negotiable at this point. There is a cost to do it, and the question will be ultimately how much will we pay them? So,
Before my time runs out,
yes.
I would like to say to the council people, commissioners who are here tonight, that this needs to be tabled, and the public needs to have a chance for a big meeting to let every councilmatic district say what they think about this, because my council person is here tonight, and I have not heard nothing about this. And to me, that's kind of embarrassing, because there is no transparency. When you get a group together like this, that's gonna tell us what they're going to do, and we have nothing to say about it. I would like to ask the commissioners here tonight to table this until more thought is put into it and it comes to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Cheryl Becker. I live at 9306 Kansas Avenue, 66111. And I have rental property, so I am a landlord.
Yeah, there you go.
I am a landlord. I have rental property at about 70th and State Avenue. My rental property is in a townhome area, so it has a very high density. I've actually been involved with that rental property over the last 40 years, so I've watched the way trash was handled there. And at my own house, a couple different places in the city. And the reason I'm here is that I did email Waste Management on Friday, and I copied my councilman. And I was notified of this meeting. My complaint did deal with trash that's not getting picked up repeatedly in these townhome areas. It is a dense area of rental property. There is a lot of transition. I'm not here to, I know that's not what this meeting is about, but that is why I'm here to listen. And I know there are policies in place to address some of the problems that aren't being addressed right now. My husband has coveted these large trash cans that you're proposing. He's wanted one for a long time. Our children live in other communities that use these. We think they're very valuable at times, and we always have more recycling than we have trash at our homes. So I would speak to, that's a great idea. But I think there is an intrinsic problem with the way our trash is being handled here in the city, and it's been addressed by many of the councilmen. So that's basically what I had to say.
Thank you very much. A couple of items. So we had a question from the public, which was how were the areas selected, if we want to address that. And then if you want to address any other aspects of what we're talking about, we're going to need to come to a decision, but I did want to say quickly, I'm not opposed to a 5 p.m. special session, but we don't vote at those. And this is an action item that we're asking for a motion and a vote on, so I'd like to kind of point that over to legal counsel for a moment.
Since the item is up for vote tonight, you could, of course, vote to move it forward. You could vote it down, or you could entertain a motion to send it back to staff and table it for the time being.
Okay. But if we were to bring it forward at a 5 o'clock session for all the commissioners to hear, we would not vote in such a session.
That's correct, Commissioner.
But, go ahead.
Couldn't we just send it forward to full commission and request that a presentation occur at the full commission meeting? Whether it's unanimous or not, we could request that a presentation occur at the full commission meeting. I mean, we could have a 5 o'clock, but sometimes it takes a while to get on those agendas, so.
I think the idea of going out to the public, because this hasn't been, I mean, I didn't pick where this was at, and this is my neighborhood, which is fine, you know, but I would have picked the ones that were the hardest ones of all to see if it worked or not, instead of cherry picking some of the other ones. But I just think the overall situation is not a good idea.
So I would like us to go ahead and answer the question about how we pick the neighborhoods. And then I think we might be coming to at least an agreement to bring it forward to full commission for a presentation. Okay. So go ahead.
Commissioner, we got together with Waste Management, our public works staff, and we threw out ideas. And to touch on Commissioner Kane there, I mean, we tried to pick one area, Strawberry Hill, that's going to be probably the most challenging with the on-street parking and the terraces and that. We tried to pick an area that was, I would say, the Northridge area, their easy area. And then the Highland Park area is kind of the, Highland Crest, I'm sorry, the middle ground, where a little bit of challenge from both areas. We didn't want to go all, if we went, because that way you're not going to get a good feel for how the pilot program works. So if we went all hard, we wouldn't go from there. So, but it was a combination between our staff and Waste Management.
Okay, thank you.
We tried to, like I said, they wanted to keep it right around 1,000, so that's why we had to adjust some areas. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other comment from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner.
I do have a question. If we move this forward, does that mean we're agreeing to pay $79,000 for a pilot program? Is that what that means?
I would say that we can make any motion that we like, including a motion that would require that we renegotiate the fee and that a pilot wouldn't start until we hear from staff and Waste Management what, if any, fee it would be and when a start date would occur. I think we can make any motion here that we like. Maybe we like some of what they've said, but not other parts. I see people nodding.
So now I'm feeling like, almost like I'm doing cherry picking, because now I'm picking this apart. But then on the other hand, a lot of the complaints that I've gotten address some of these things. It's like, where are we going ahead and where are we stopping? And I don't want to stop the whole concept, because I do understand that we need to change how we do things. My biggest concern is around taking care eventually, if we should adopt this across the board, you know, about all of the communities being treated equally. Mm-hmm. And that's not happening right now with Waste Management, and I'm just wondering why we think that would change, other than the fact that everything's in a container. But you understand what I'm saying?
This is the first I've heard your concern tonight, and that does trouble myself. And if we can talk to John afterwards, that would be great. And anyone else who's got a concern, that's why he's here tonight. Certainly want to look at that. Containerizing isn't a perfect solution. You've heard tonight. We're trying to figure out how that's going to look and how it's going to work. How do we address the issues from the elderly and the disabled to some of our extreme topography? You know, one of the concerns I had why we looked at Highland Crest was I wanted to see places that didn't have basements, who had single car garages that were smaller. How would they handle that? So that's why we really looked at trying to have a good geographic representation of all the challenges we would face. And hopefully, based on the feedback we received in our resident survey that we just sent out, I believe you guys are getting the links. We finally have all the completed data now. this was very positively viewed by the community, and that was across every district. So I think there's a lot of residents, as we did hear from one of them here, that find this very interesting. I know personally, I've used these in every place I've lived but here and not had any significant challenges. I did not live in Strawberry Hill, which is my biggest concern, is how we're gonna handle that there. But I know that waste management is in almost every major metropolitan area across the United States. If they've done this in Seattle, they can handle it in Kansas City, Kansas.
So just to express something before I vote, because I want people to understand that I do have concerns on the basic level of across-the-board care for our community. That's number one. Number two, I want to have assurances from not waste management, but from our staff, that we'll have more than one conversation in each area, okay, for this. I don't want just one cattle call, because we need to give people a little bit more options to come in and talk. And I understand a lot of times you end up with crickets. Nobody shows up. I mean, I've done these things, and I know. But if we don't give people the option, then we haven't done our job. And if they choose not to partake, then that's their choice. But I think it's our job to give them the option. Those are my two major concerns, along with the additional $79,000.
Yeah, and that's why when that came back to us, I'll echo, the commission's comments. That did not make me happy either. As waste management, John walked us through sort of the fact that this is kind of a one-off. It's not just taking a route and, changing it. So there is some initial costs, and if we don't decide to go forward with it, they have some costs. That being said, I wasn't that compelled by that argument, but knowing that we have the money that they owe back to us, and this is an opportunity to use it for something that could ultimately drive benefit for our community, that's why we brought that forward. So.
Well, I'd rather see them put that money into something beyond something that makes life better for them as well. So, I mean, I don't care if it's picking up the park. You understand what I'm saying? And that's all I have to say on that.
Okay, Commissioner Markley.
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward to full commission for presentation and a vote at that time. At that time, we would see the presentation of the negotiated fee as well, so we wouldn't decide that tonight under my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Any comments on the question?
Certainly, but hold off just a moment. I would like the motion to be read back, please.
She was making a motion.
To move it forward to full commission for a presentation and a vote. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kane.
Board member was first.
Mr. Groneman.
Okay.
I just was concerned that if we approved the pilot, was it going to then go back to the full board before it was finally approved or not? And
correct.
This motion takes care of that.
And if staff has talked to anybody in District 5 about the trash issue, I would like the name and the contact number.
Okay. Are we squared away down there? Okay. We are ready for a roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Groneman?
Aye.
Philbrick?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
Kane? No. McKiernan?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye. And that motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. And we will transition here. We have a second item, which is our last item for this standing committee. And we have new staff making their way to the table. This is a discussion on the Transportation Management Guide. And thank you. Okay, we have Lydiana LeBoy here, and she will start us off with opening remarks about this transportation management guide.
I'll actually start you off. It's Troy Shaw, I'm the county engineer.
Hi.
Her name was on the RFA, so. What we have, and we're gonna kind of keep this quick for you. A major theme of our Public Works strategic plan was to improve transparency and consistency, which we've already talked about a little bit tonight. And that's what this transportation management guide is geared to do from the transportation perspective. Lydiana's going to go over that with you and kind of what we're looking at. This is an initial kickoff meeting for what we're planning on doing. I think there was an outline of this given to you with initial RFA that kind of has our original outline of what we're looking at. And we're kind of here for your feedback and to let us know if there's anything else you want us to improve and add to that item. So I'll let Lydiana take it from here.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Right, oops, sorry. I need to manage my technical stuff.
Lydiana, before you start, could you introduce yourself again? Because I think we were still getting situated up here. Not you, but I'm sorry. I need your name, and you have a job title. And
Troy Shaw, I'm the county engineer.
Troy Shaw, county engineer. Right. Now everybody in the room knows who you are, and thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, and I'm Lydiana LeBoy, the city traffic engineer. All right, so today we're going to talk about, what is the purpose of doing this, just a brief introduction, what this is. What we want to do is just standardize our process and be transparent with everybody that do business with unified government. This document is going to document our traffic standards. It's going to, help and be uniform across lines and departments. And it will help us as an education tool for the general public and on those that come to work with us. In essence, what we're doing is just trying to establish what are our best practices to manage transportation transportation system. Thank you. Who will be using this guide? Everybody that do business with us will be using this, from commissioners and directors to the general public, engineers, inspectors, consultants. All of us will be using this document. It's going to be published on the website, and it will be outlined in a way that it will be a technical document, but it will still be easy to manage as we're going to break it out in sections so that it's easy to manage and people will be able to access it just straight to what their questions and answers are. You receive an outline of the document. It's also attached to your presentation today there. I just put this diagram here, kind of put it all together in contents. We're talking about our transportation system. And so this document will define what is our transportation system, what is the functional classification and what is related to that, how we establish speed limits, how do we define geometry, access management. Those are kind of engineering aspects of this. We're going to be also addressing private development, traffic impact studies. We're going to have a big section there identifying when do we need a traffic study, how do we use it, who's going to be needed or required to do so. Complete street design, how do we address pedestrians, bicycles, and transit. And also we're going to have a section about how we operate our system, traffic operation, how we do our traffic signals, signs, how we set up regulations, how we change regulations. And also we'll have common practice, common things that people are concerned about, like traffic calming. How do I get a speed bump? How do I enhance my neighborhood? This is some things that concern me. All those questions that are normally, that we deal in the daily basis, we would like to address this in this document to help answer questions and improve transparency. So this.
I just want to add a couple things real quick. We also provided you an 85th percentile little document I think it's from Louisiana Highway Patrol. Those are the type of questions that this document is going to help answer. That's just an example out there. for how you do certain things, and we're going to be able to use a document such as that and have sections of this that'll have that very easy answers to questions that we hear all the time, or that you may have, the public has, to provide those answers so they're out there. But that's just an example of kind of what we're looking to do here.
So the purpose of the meeting today is to try to, let you know what we're doing and get just a first glance at what is coming, and also to gather information from you. So we, in general, have put two questions together, in general, but we are open for any comments that you have. What additional transportation-related topics you would like to see in this document, and which of these topics are your concern, or you have more concerns about that are related to the public? So with that, I just open the conversation and listen to your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So if I could say back to you what I think we're doing as part of Public Works' overall planning process, part of it is transportation management. And the items that you've brought forward here are some of, but perhaps not all, of the topics that could be included in almost a user guide, if you will, that's going to be a part of your final document when you're done with the entire strategic plan. Is that a fair way to say what you're doing?
That's correct.
Okay. So, Commissioner Markley.
I would just say, and you addressed this in the outline format, the most common questions that I get from constituents are how do I get a speed limit sign? How do I get a stop sign? How do I get a speed bump? So those are the common ones that I receive, and having a format and a system for how those questions get answered would be fabulous.
Yes, that's our purpose, that when we, it's going to be a full document that is a technical document, and we'll publish the entire document. But in the website is our intention that we will set it up, break it down in simple questions that people have commonly.
Okay. And Commissioner Kane.
I've had extremely good luck with the speed bumps and stuff like that. They bring out the documentation, they set the stuff down, they check the speed, and they've done really good. Now, I didn't get them everywhere I wanted, but the test showed we didn't need it. So I've had really good luck with these folks, and I appreciate the work they've done.
I appreciate hearing that very much, and I would say to that comment, it might be helpful as part of a document for folks to understand that when we request something as a citizen, there are things we do ahead of that to prepare for and analyze and track data and whatnot. That may or may not be helpful in a document like this, but I think when we explain to the public why something might be taking longer than they think it should, but we explain to them there are technical and engineering reasons why, they're willing to accept that. So that could be helpful. Commissioner McKiernan, anything from you?
So I was just going to say that I really appreciate this, and all the topics that we've talked about in the past are really all included in your guide outline, things like traffic calming and parking regulations. So really it looks like everything that I hear about most frequently is already in your outline.
Commissioner Philbrook, anything from you? This won't be the last time we see them. Mr. Groneman. Okay. All right, excellent. So we know you'll be back, and we really appreciate the information that you're bringing us, and we'll wait for round two.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much. And that is the last item. That was not an item for action. It was an information-only item. That does conclude our Public Works and Safety meeting. We thank you for being here. This meeting's adjourned, and I imagine we will move straight into Commissioner Markley's Administration and Human Services meeting.
I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You'll have 3 minutes to state your comments. Everyone, please use your microphones. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook. Here. We have Commissioner McKiernan for Commissioner Johnson.
Here?
Kane. Here. Bynum.
Here.
Markley.
Here. Next, we have the minutes from our February 26th meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes have been approved. We have 2 items in our agenda tonight. The first order of business is a request to conduct a public hearing. It's a public hearing for Thursday to consider amendments to the NRSA plan. I'll recognize Wilba Miller.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you all may remember, all last year through the SOAR project, we did a neighborhood revitalization strategy area plan for an area we known as Park Drive neighborhood. We had several stakeholder meetings with residents, community members. We developed this plan over probably 4 or 5 months and brought it forward to commission. Before we brought it forward to commission, we did do a 30-day citizen comment period from September to October, and then the document was submitted to commission and approved by commission on October 26th to be submitted to HUD. We did not receive answer back from HUD until February of this year. And as part of their approval, they're requiring us to amend our 2017 5-year plan to include this. And you may remember we just amended the 17 last year, so this will be amendment number 1. And all we have to do is have a public hearing, which I'm requesting for Thursday, and ask for commission approval to amend the plan.
Make a motion that we hold a public hearing on Thursday, April 26th.
Is anyone from the public here to address this item? Again, the actual public hearing is on Thursday, so tonight we're just setting that date. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call on that motion.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our last item is a request to authorize staff to work on Groundwork USA funding opportunities. Staff has requested that this item be fast-tracked to this Thursday's full commission meeting. And I'm not sure who's presenting, because clearly you are not Rob Richardson.
I am Jamie Hickey. I'm a staff planner here in the Urban Planning Department, and I'm here with Rachel Jefferson. She is working with us on the Northeast Area Master Plan, and you're the director, correct, of the Historic Northeast
+17853318149 is now joining.
Zach Flanders, another planner, is joining us via phone from conference in New Orleans. So thank you, Zach, for taking time out of the fun to be here with us.
Happy to do it.
Essentially what we're doing is we're discussing a funding opportunity through Groundwork USA. It is a grant that is funded by the EPA and the National Park Service that would allow us to provide funding to support the implementation of the Northeast Area Master Plan that is currently ongoing. It would allow us to work in partnership with the Historic Northeast Area, our Northeast Midtown Association, to kind of work through some of that implementation. So what we'll kind of talk about really briefly is the connection to the Northeast Area Master Plan, what Groundwork USA is, specifics of this funding opportunity, discuss the Groundwork Steering Committee, the next steps, and then open it for questions from you all. And I will let Rachel take on some of this explanation for you all.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Grab that microphone.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Rachel Jefferson. I'm the Executive Director of the Historic Northeast Midtown Association, which also operates as the Neighborhood Business Revitalization Organization for the Northeast area of Kansas City, Kansas. So this opportunity really is well-timed because the timing of it aligns with our Northeast Master Planning process, which we'll be finishing up in June. I am a member of that Northeast Master Plan Steering Committee and brought forward this proposal in that capacity. And I haven't used one of these fancy things before, so just the arrow. Okay. So Groundwork is a partnership between the National Park Service and the Environmental Protection Agency that supports a series of groundwork trusts on the national level. So there are 20 trusts right now that operate with the groundwork name. They put out a request for proposals to form a 21st trust, and that's the proposal that we would be writing a letter of interest for, which is due on April 30th. Some of the objectives of the program are to transform derelict and abandoned land, remediate and transform brownfields, improve outdoor facilities, enhance commercial areas, involve youth and young adults in youth development and local workforce projects, and ensure equitable and inclusive participation, especially in economic development. They also work a lot with creating neighborhood infrastructure for active living and working with parks, trails, gardens, and urban waterways and water systems. So through this process, one community will be selected to be a groundwork trust. It will be eligible for up to $200,000 in funding and technical assistance from the National Park Service, EPA, and Groundwork USA to plan, establish, and build capacity of its local groundwork organization. So that would be $200,000 in federal funding over 3 years, which requires a $35,000 local match per year for the first 3 years from the local government, and a $10,000 private sector match per year for the first 3 years from a private sector participant, probably a philanthropic body. Types of activities supported. One of the main activities is going to be the hiring of a full-time employee whose sole focus is the Groundwork Trust and the work plan that the Groundwork Steering Committee would create. Initiation of projects and programs that support the Groundwork Trust work plan. Other funding, other activities that could be funded include youth development projects, park improvements, community gardens, community outreach, and community conceptual plans. So I'll just note again, it's really well timed, seeing how just last year the unified government also completed its parks master plan. So one of the things that we're requesting here is that we have permission to move forward with forming the Groundwork Steering Committee. This is just a list of potential agencies that would be included in the steering committee, along with those agencies and representatives that are already on the Northeast Master Plan Steering Committee. Neighborhood associations, so any of the 12 to 13 active neighborhood associations in the historic Northeast Midtown Association area. Youth Build KC, who is going to be carrying forward one of the early action projects out of the Northeast Master Plan, the Youth Build Model Block, and who's also been a very great partner of ours in installing park improvements in both Heathwood and Parkwood Park, including play equipment and benches, which I invite any of you to go see and use as you would like. The unified government, a host of people from the unified government we will need to make this work, such as the elected officials, urban planning department, who we're here presenting this presentation with, economic development, the mayor's office, public works, livable neighborhoods, park and recreation, county administrator's office, academic institutions, the University of Kansas. Specifically, we have worked with the University of Kansas School of Architecture, Design, and Planning, who has the offshoot DOT agency located just a few short blocks from here and has been instrumental in using design think strategy to implementing built environment improvements, not only in Northeast KCK, but also in other areas of the community. The Unified School District 500, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, specifically the Wyandotte County branch, the Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority, the Community Health Council of Wyandotte County, and their HEAT CAB, which was formed out of that Health Equity Action Transformation report. And then it's a community action board of about 30 individuals who are working on several different projects right now. Faith-based organizations, Unity with Purpose, which is another wonderful community-based group, which is working to bring improvements to Northeast KCK with a specific focus on the Quindaro redevelopment. The Local Initiative Support Corporation, which I know you are all already aware of. The Environmental Protection Agency, Region 7, and then the National Park Service, specifically the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. So the steps in the process, like I said, we have this letter of interest that's due April 30th, which we are currently drafting right now. And then we'll go through an assessment process, May 1st to July 15th, with a full proposal due September 15th if we're selected of one of 6 communities to move forward. Then we will go through a feasibility study, which take about 6 to 9 months, and a startup phase of 12 to 8 months, and then continue with building the capacity for the next 3 years. Again, the request, but I believe you have a more detailed one in front of you. And that concludes the presentation. Open up for questions and discussion. And also Zach Flanders is on the phone, as I said, to field some questions for urban planning in addition to Jamie here.
Clearly, that April 30th date is the reason this would need to be fast-tracked. So remember, we would need to fast-track our action for the Thursday agenda. Commissioner Bynum?
So, Rachel, I really appreciate all the ways that you've worked and supported the Northeast area. And it's a lot of ways, not the least of which is the current way that you have stepped forward and are such an integral part of the Northeast area master planning process. I appreciate that you have gone out and found this and pulled the people together that need to be at the table to make something like this work. It's very exciting. It's a layering, which I think you already pointed out, of the work that's already being done, and it's a real opportunity for some of the implementation that we will need when we have a final master plan to bring forward to the full commission. And with all that being said, I'd just like to make a motion that we allow you and the steering committee to work with our urban planning team and work on this application.
Are there any other comments from the standing committee?
Just want to remind everybody that that means we're committing to $35,000 a year. I just wanted to stick that out there in front of the public. I have no problem with that, but I think they just needed to hear that. And then 10,000 from private sector, which I'm sure Rachel doesn't feel is going to be a problem at all. I have a feeling she's been twisting arms already. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I made a motion.
Any comments from the public? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call. Filbert?
Aye.
McKiernan?
Aye.
Kane? Aye. Bynum?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye. That concludes our meeting. Oh, wait. Commissioner Kane?
I just want staff to know, do you see how fast they did that? Just a comment.
That concludes our meeting. Thank you for your attendance. We're adjourned.
Never quit. Never quit.